Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of My Sunderland 11, as always, in association with the Sunderland Food Bank and the Sunderland Fans Museum. Go check them out. Links are in the description below. Today's guest, is a very, very special guest for myself. One person who saw this person play for the club. It's Andy Reid. How are you doing, Andy?
Oh, I'm very well, thanks, mate. Very well indeed.
Good, good. How are things? How are things for you at the moment? And for those of you that, for everyone watching that doesn't know, what role are you currently in?
So I'm currently the under-23 head coach at Nottingham Forest, and just getting ready to go out for a session. As you can see, the training ground in the background. It's brilliant. It's a club that I love, and it's a job that I love. Working with the young players, trying to forge a career in the game is absolutely fantastic, and hopefully we can lead some of them on the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine though during this season it's been a very sort of stop-start program.
Well, actually, ours hasn't been too bad. We've been lucky. We haven't had any. We haven't been shut down by COVID at any times. We haven't had any outbreaks, and the ones that have contracted it have been kind of safely away from the rest of the group. So we actually haven't had to shut down. We've done really well. Our protocols have been really strict, and we've stuck to them quite well. So we've been. It's been good that we've. It's been good that we haven't been broken down and haven't been told to stop, which is great. So since the first lockdown, really, once we got back in after that, we've had a run on it.
Good, excellent. So was coaching something you always wanted to get into when you finished your playing career?
Yeah, I think it's something that I thought about from probably the age of maybe 25, 26. I actually done my level 2 when I was playing at Sunderland. There was a group of us that done it together. I think, trying to think back who it might be, and I think it was Noira Nosworthy and Danny Collins, maybe Dean Whitehead done it. I can't remember exactly who, but there was a group of us. A level 2 course, an FA level 2 course was put on for us up there. So I think from then I was kind of thinking about it, that when I finished, that is something that I would like to a route that I would like to go down, and it's just kind of really grown from there. And I think what you do is you start to get a real love for it. It's not the same as playing. It's very, very different to playing, and nothing will ever replace playing. But it's a close second, I have to say, being out on the grass every day. And what I mentioned earlier about trying to help these young players forge a path and forge a career for themselves. It's fantastic. So I'm loving it at the minute, and kind of learning loads, and that's the thing. The main thing about it for me is being out on the grass. Being out on the grass every single day, and walking in football every single day is it's fantastic, and I'm very fortunate.
Absolutely, and I imagine it's extra special as well to do it at a club where you sort of, you started your professional career and ended it as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of these lads, and I do speak to them sometimes, and probably why I'm reasonably well placed to maybe try and help them is that I've travelled the pathway that they're travelling. I've come through this academy, Forest. I've come through the U team and played in the reserve team, which is obviously now the 23s. And then kind of made it across to the building which is just next to me over there, which is the Force team building. So I've as I said, I've travelled the road that they're on at the moment, which makes me think that I'm reasonably placed to try and help these lads, and to do it at this club that I've got such an affinity for is brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic. It's great to hear it's all going well. So, Andy, if I take you right back then, what are your sort of memories of growing up and watching football?
Well, we were all probably get a couple of boos for this, but we were all Man U fans growing up, because my dad was a massive Man United fan. So we were all brought up as Man United fans. in our house. We used to get on the boat from Dublin to Holyhead, get the train from Holyhead to Manchester, and go to Old Trafford and watch some of the games. And I think some of them, along with watching games on telly as well, but some of them are my earliest football memories. Of travelling over there and the excitement of going on the boat, and and then getting up to Manchester, and was brilliant. And I always remember kind of milling around Old Trafford before the games, and the excitement of going in to watch it. And then when you go into the stadium and you hear the crowd and you hear the noise, there's some fantastic memories there that I have, and some of, as I said, some of my earliest memories of football.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you first sort of get into, start playing football?
Well, my dad played for a League of Ireland team called St Patrick's Athletic, and we kind of came from a football family. A lot of my uncles played, so there was always football around. We were always watching football, always going to watch my dad playing football, and so kind of the next step really for me was to go and play. So I started off playing for a team called Lourdes Celtic in Dublin. Played for them for a few years, and then I moved on to a club called Cherry Orchard. Both of them really, really famous schoolboy clubs in Dublin. And from there I was kind of spotted by some scouts, and given the opportunity to go across on some trials over to England. So I went on trial for quite a few clubs, and some clubs wanted to sign me, and but for me, when I came to Forest, it seemed like the really natural fit, and it felt really, really comfortable, and like I was in the right place.
Excellent. Yeah, brilliant. And did you ever think, sort of from a young age, playing in Ireland for those clubs, did you ever look at like certain English clubs and think, I mean, even maybe Sunderland, for example, and think, like that might be a club I'd like to play for, or was it sort of anywhere that would give me a chance would be brilliant?
Well, listen, I mean, I went on, as I said to you, I went on trial for quite a few clubs, and some of them I enjoyed, some of them I didn't. But I always felt like I kind of wanted to kind of move across and get the opportunity to try and play in England, because even though my dad did play League of Ireland, I mean, most of the football that we watched on TV was all kind of English Premier League football. So I always felt that was the place to be, and then that was where I kind of wanted to go. I suppose when I think back to when I was younger, when I was kind of 10, 11, 12, maybe before I went over on trials, I probably never believed that that I was going to get there. So I think as you get older, and you start to realize what's out there, and you start to realize that actually you do have quite a bit of ability, and that you might have an opportunity to show what you can do, and maybe get over there. So it's a kind of a gradual thing, but it was something that I always kind of tried to aim for.
Yeah, no, yeah, fantastic. We'll get on to your time at Sunderland. Now, obviously, Sunderland have had a lot of good Irish players. Niall Quinn, for example, is probably one of our biggest legends at the club. So, what did you think then when Sunderland's, you got a call from Sunderland? It was quite late on in the January transfer window to go.
Yeah, it was, and there was loads of Irish lads there at the time, because obviously Roy had kind of come in, and I think even before Roy came in, that there was some Irish lads there, and then Roy kind of brought a few more in, and went on a really, really good run that got them promoted, and then it was a tough enough season in the Premier League, as it is kind of most seasons. So it kind of kept the January, and I knew that there was interest there, and that something could happen. If I'm being totally honest with you, I wasn't desperate to get away from Charlton by any stretch of the imagination. I think we were second or third in the league, in the Championship at the time. I was really enjoying working under Alan Pardew, and I was captain down there. I was really settled down there. It's a club that I really enjoyed being at. So initially I wasn't kind of desperate to kind of leave there by any stretch. But when I came up to the training ground and I spoke to Roy, and seeing the training ground, and I knew the stadium because I'd come up there and played before, and and they kind of showed me how much they wanted me. and I kind of felt like I was really wanted and felt that I could really contribute to the team. So in the end, it became a decision that was the right decision for myself, for Sunderland, and for Charlton, who got money that they kind of needed. So I really felt like it was the right thing to do, and I kind of, came with a real determination that I was going to try and help the team stay in the Premier League.
Excellent. Yeah. How did you find moving up to the northeast though as an area? Because it's a lot different to how it was living in Charlton, I'm sure.
I found it very cold for a start. Listen, what I found when I went up there, I think that I had a real affinity with people up there. I found the people of the northeast very, very similar to Irish people, and I seemed to settle in really well. I felt I understood people. I understood that I understood the working class areas, having come from one myself. I understood how much the football meant to the people up there, and as I mentioned, that kind of affinity. That affinity that I felt I had, from maybe coming back home, from being back home, is that there is a lot of similarities between people from the northeast and Irish people. So I felt really, really comfortable up in the northeast, and still speak to my fiance now, and we didn't have kids at the time, but I speak to her now, and it was one of her favourite times. And our favourite places to live when we lived up in the northeast. She absolutely loved it, and I did as well. I felt that people, really kind of took to me and responded to me, and I did then. And also, I suppose it kind of a bit of a kind of a deeper rooted kind of thing about the area. I would have, been a kind of a supporter when I found out a bit more of the politics of the miners, and I remember being in Durham one day and the Miners' March was on, and kind of wanting to find out a little bit more about the miners and about the tough times that they've been through, and then you take that then a step forward and start to find out then a little bit more of obviously the Stadium of Light and the old colliery that it's built on, and there just seemed to be just a real thing that kind of caught me about the whole area and about the history of the area and the people up there, and all them things kind of put together made it really, really special for me to be up there around that time. It was something that I was very, very keen to embrace, and it felt really, really natural to be up and around there for me.
Yeah, it's great to hear you say that. I think Niall Quinn did actually say that as well, in some sort of interview that he did. He said that the people in Sunderland and in the northeast are very similar to how they were in Ireland as well. So, and I think as well, I see that too, because I go to Ireland every year, and I feel like it's the people are very the same, and I think there's a sense of community and everyone comes together, which I don't think you see in parts of the country like London, for example, where there are so many different and diverse people.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think also I think that's part of the reason why the Sunderland fans are so passionate about the club, because the club is everything to them, and it is that sense of community. It's a sense of this is Sunderland and this is us. This is our city. This is our football club, and we're going to back it to the hilt. And that's part of the reason, walking out the Stadium of Light, and I know there's been a lot of tough times in between then and now, but walking out on the Stadium of Light to a full house, and you're playing against one of the top Premier League teams, and then then you get a result against them. And I'm thinking back to results that we got when we beat Arsenal and when we beat Liverpool, the beach ball game when Darren Bale scored, and I'm thinking the atmosphere then, and then obviously the derby as well. Just the atmosphere, and then also you think back on some of the kind of the special moments there, the special moments that I've had up there kind of personally, and I've seen recently somebody tagged me into something on Twitter, a goal that I scored against West Ham in injury time where we won 2-1, and the roof comes off the stadium, and you see how much it means to people, and things like that mean the world to me, and the memories that nobody can ever kind of take away from me, and I was so pleased that I was able to kind of share them in a stadium, and that was packed to the rafters with Sunderland fans who were just so passionate about the football club.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take you back to another memory. So your debut for Sunderland, I think, was against Wigan. What do you remember from that day?
Well, I hadn't. I had a little bit of a knee injury, and I hadn't played for probably about 4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. I think it might have been about 5 weeks. So my first day's training was on the Thursday, and then we trained again on the Friday, which was match day -1, and then going into the game on the Saturday. Now I wasn't expecting to kind of be involved because I'd only had kind of 2 days training, and Roy pulled me after the game after the training on the Friday and said, "Listen, I'm going to put you on the bench tomorrow. You feel like you're ready to go on the bench?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." So I was absolutely delighted to kind of be on the bench, and I think we were 1-0 up. Dixon at 2, who I think scored, if my memory serves me right, but I'm not 100% on that. And then it was probably about 20 minutes left, and Roy calls me and puts me on. And I was probably only on the pitch maybe a minute or something like that, and the ball came to me, and Daryl Murphy made a really good run. So I played the ball to him, and he took a really good force touch, and Murph with his really good left foot is pinged one right in the top corner. And I'm pretty sure it was kind of goal of the month. So to be involved in that goal on my debut and see Murph score and for us to get the win, it was brilliant. It was really good.
Excellent. Yeah. What was your sort of expectations of coming to the club compared to how it actually was?
Well, I think I had really high expectations because I had played up there before quite a few times. So I knew what the fans were like. I kind of had a bit of a feeling for what the club was like, and I knew that it was. I knew that it was a really passionate place, and I've always been kind of a passionate player, and I'm a passionate coach as well. Where I kind of, so I always felt that it kind of would be a good, that it would be a good fit. I have to say, I don't know if anything expected me for how really kind of how really passionate for the clubs the Sunderland fans are. How much they absolutely adore the club and they adore their team. So in some respects, it was a little bit of I kind of had an idea of what I was coming up to, but I don't think that never fully prepares you for how much it means to the fans.
Yeah, and I think I read somewhere as well, when you first signed for Sunderland, you set out your expectations of being, I want this club to be battling, top half of the Premier League, and even better, you don't want to be battling relegation.
Well, yeah. So if you talk about the football expectations, I think that was a conversation that I had with the manager just before I signed. And I said, I don't want to be coming here for. I don't want to be coming here to be fighting relegation. I want to kick on, but I was fully aware of where we were at and where the team was at, and it was a kind of consolidation kind of season, and everybody just wanted to just get over that line and just kind of stay up. And it was a great group of players. I was very fortunate. I come into a really good dressing room. You had really top class people in there. Dean Whitehead, Grant Ledbetter, Naira Nosworthy, Danny Collins, really good professionals, good players, done things right every single day. And then I came in, and Phil Bardsley came in as well, and Johnny Evans came in, and I think that to kind of add us into what was already a really strong dressing room. And I think it kind of just went like that, and we ended up getting some really good results. And from January to the end of the season, we went on a really good run and ended up staying up pretty comfortably in the end. I think it kind of sealed it that we were going to be safe a couple of games before the end of the season when we played against Middlesbrough at the Stadium Alloy. So it was really good to kind of come into a really good dressing room to come into, and I really enjoyed being around there. And then and from then, I think it was, you're thinking, right, we're going to really kick on here.
Absolutely. And I think, do you know, as a Sunderland fan myself and watching the team over the years, I honestly don't think that our the expectations of the club have been high enough, and I think that's this is, sort of ended up in where the club is now. And I think it's been years of other players, Bolo Zenden, who played for the club. He came in and said, I think he said he even left the club because he thought, as a club we should be battling for top five, whatever, with the squad that we had, Henderson and Asamoah Gyan, we had Danny Welbeck, great players. And then I think I think the expectation the next season was just stay in the Premier League, and I think the years of that. I don't know what you think. Are you sort of surprised after the year?
No, I also think there's a process to this, and maybe it's a lot easier for me to kind of talk about it now, because I can see it from the other side. I can see it from a manager's side. I can see it from a kind of a club's perspective. Is that it's you don't just kind of, these things don't just happen overnight. There's a process to them, and unless you go out and spend kind of 300 million or wherever it is you're going to spend or whatever it is you're going to need, it's very, very difficult to come up and then stay up and then all of a sudden then kind of continually push for Champions League. You can do it, maybe have a one-off season, and maybe Sheffield United have shown that, but then it starts to get tough. And for me, it's not about kind of going from just staying up to then all of a sudden then qualifying for Europe. I think if you look at, maybe the way Burnley have done it as being really, really good, where there's been a kind of a steady progression. And I think that's the way I would look. I think that's the safest way to go about it for a club if you're talking about sustainability for a football club, and not just being silly and spending silly money for short-term gains. I think the infrastructure being put into the club is very, very important. And I think then the building blocks being put in place so you can kick on and kind of, get there bit by bit. I think it's the safest way to do it for a football club. And I also think it's the best way to do it, because you're not really relying on them short-term highs and kind of, and then you've got the big drops. You're slowly building, you're slowly improving, year on year, you can see improvements. You can bring in the players to supplement what you've already got. And I believe that's the way to go about it. The problem that you've got is that everybody, wants success yesterday, and unfortunately in football, it's not always possible, because if you've got everybody wanting success yesterday, every club's fighting for all them points. Every club's fighting for that Champions League spot. Everybody's fighting for the Europa League spot. So everybody wants the same thing as you, but you've got to be clever in the way you go about it, and I think you've got to put the building blocks in place before you move on, because you can get short-term goals and you can hit short-term highs, but they are short-term if you've not got the building blocks in place.
Yeah, I absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point, and hopefully the club have learned from their previous mistakes where they've probably spent the money in the wrong places. But hopefully now we've got new ownership and whatnot. So hopefully things are looking up. But we'll just one last my last two questions. One of them is, what was your best memory for playing for Sunderland?
I think I would have to say that goal that I mentioned early on against West Ham. It was 1-1. We kind of got into injury time, and I remember just getting into the box and kind of hitting a volley, and it went through Lucas Neal's legs. I think Anton Ferdinand actually got a little bit of a flick on it for he was playing for West Ham at the time, and I kind of took it away from there with the defender and came to me, and I've hit it. Kind of, I caught it well and it's gone in. But I just remember the feeling. I honestly felt like the roof was going to come off. Everybody just went nuts. The players went nuts. I went nuts. Fans were kind of jumping up and down, and it was fantastic. And it was a real special memory for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was such a great moment, and I think Nick Barnes' commentary on that goal as well made it incredible as well.
Yeah, no, I've listened to that when somebody sent it to me on Twitter, and you hear Barnes' commentary on it. It was fantastic. It was it was really special, and I think we all felt that we're on our way to kind of staying up as well, which added a little bit more to it. There's nothing better than a kind of a last minute team. It's fantastic. So yeah, it was a special memory. I think another game that I really enjoyed was we played Hull at home. I think we beat them 4-1. I think it was. And I managed to get a goal, and I think I played particularly well. It was one of my first games I played under Steve Bruce, and you know, and it was that was a really good day that I think back on sometimes as well.
Excellent. I've got one last question before we go through your Sunderland 11, and that is, it's a simple question really. I ask all the guests. I'd be interested to hear what your answer is. But in your own words, what does Sunderland AFC mean to you?
Listen, the passion and the warmth that I was shown from not just the fans, but from also the people in the club. You know, so many amazing people worked at the football club when I went up there, and everybody, you know, really looked after me. They made me feel so welcome. So, you know, that means the world to me, because I would be a real people person, and you know, to be shown that level of warmth and that level of respect when I went up there, you know, was amazing, and it made me kind of want to give back a little bit more. So, you know, the feeling around that, I had a fantastic kind of 3 years or so there. You know, really felt like I kind of understood the club, and I felt that the fans understood me as well. So it was a fantastic time football wise for me, and it was a fantastic time in my life as from living up around the area was great. So it does mean a lot, and you know, probably, you know, along with obviously the other clubs I've played for, when I switch on the results, I have a little look, and always hope that Sunderland are getting the results.
Yeah, excellent to hear. I will look back at your further good memories now by going through your Sunderland 11. Now, I believe you've gone with is it a 4-2-3-1 formation?
I think so. Yeah, well, it was a 4-2-3-1. Yeah, that I went for. Let me just have a quick little look and see what it is. Yeah, it was a 4-2-3-1. Do you want me to walk my way through it?
Yeah, I mean, you can start us off with who you have in goal first.
Okay, so Craig Gordon is in goal. Now, Craig's a fantastic goalkeeper. He was very unlucky with injuries, but I think we always knew. And I actually don't, you know, I think at times he played well for Sunderland, but I don't think maybe he's seen how good Craig could be. You know, injuries played a part in that, but you know, he was a fantastic goalkeeper, really top goalkeeper. Showed it for Scotland, and more recently showed it for Celtic as well. So Craig Gordon would for me have been, you know, if you're talking about the best goalkeeper, I think a mention has to go to Martin Fulop. Rest his soul. He was a great guy, somebody that I played at Tottenham with, and also at Sunderland, who was a good goalkeeper when I was there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig Gordon, yeah, he was brilliant. And as you say, he had so many injuries, and I don't ever think that we saw a really consistent run of him being, you know, really good. I think obviously we've seen the saves that he made. He made a great save against I think it was Bolton at home, where he just dived across. It was a save I don't think any other goalkeeper could make, but it just happened that day that yeah, no, it was a fantastic save. And I mean, I think Sunderland we've sort of been very lucky with goalkeepers. You know, we've always had quite some, you know, good one. You know, Simon Mignolet, Martin Fulop, as you say as well. So I think Craig Gordon just added onto that list. Really, he was really good. I think.
Yeah,
definitely.
So right back, I've gone for Phil Bardsley.
Yeah.
Bardo was an excellent fullback. He was a real addition when Roy brought him in, and he was a great character around the place. Well, somebody that I got on really well with. We would have been kind of mucking about together all the time, and probably trying to wind people up, and trying to play our kind of our practical jokes on people. So Bardo, fantastic footballer. Went on to have a fantastic career as well. You know, played a hell of a lot of Premier League games, and still playing Premier League football at the moment. So yeah, Bardo in at right back.
Yeah, Excellent, yeah, very solid right back as well. Well, we can switch to your left back. Tell us who's going to be at left back.
Yeah, so George McCartney. I think George was a very, very underrated left back. I really do. I think he was. He was. He played a lot of games. Was very, very solid. Very, very rarely made mistakes, and could get forward at the time as well. So, yeah, for me, Danny Collins played quite a bit left back. Maybe Danny might be on at me that he's not in his team.
Yeah.
But for me, if we're going purely on football terms, then I think George has got to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was an excellent player, George McCartney as well. So yeah, brilliant. Those are your two fullbacks then. So we'll go now to your centre backs. Talk us through each one that you've got there.
Yeah, so Johnny Evans in there, another one that that Roy brought in. I know he only came in on loan, but he was a rock. He really was, and the club were desperate to get him permanently, but Man United went kind of having any of that, and I think it shows how good he was by what he went on to achieve with Man United and what he's still achieving with Leicester at the moment. He's still a top class centre back. Really, really is. Really dependable, great guy to have around the place. Proper leader, proper man. Even though he was kind of still pretty young. When he was at Sunderland, you could really see his leadership skills. So Johnny Evans for me has to be one of the centre backs.
Yeah, I think he was at Sunderland. I think 2 seasons earlier on another loan spell as well. So having 2 loan spells, and I think everyone was so desperate to keep him on a permanent. But I think when you have a player sort of that young and that good, it doesn't surprise you that he's still doing very, very well now in the Premier League with Leicester.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Yeah,
the other centre back I've gone for is John Mensah.
Yeah.
Again, there could have been others that I could put in there. Anton Ferdinand, Norman Noswood, Danny Collins, even left-sided centre-back. I could have put him in there. But for me, John Mensah, absolutely phenomenal. If only for injuries, I mean this kind of with the greatest respect, but for injuries, he wouldn't have even been at Sunderland. He had all the attributes and mentality and everything to play at to play Champions League football week in, week out. And play at the really top end of the Premier League. I think his injuries what held him back in there. He had everything: pace, power. He could head the ball. He could play. Really, really top notch player. Again, another one that probably didn't get to see the best of because of injuries, which was such a shame. But every time he played, he was phenomenal.
Yeah, I was just about to make that point, really. Yeah, I think he was a player where we saw the glimpses of him. He was so good, so powerful, and then he sort of got those injuries, and then he went again. And I don't think it was fair on him really to get a fair crack at it, because he would have been. As you say, yeah, he might have had a really good season with us injury free and left for maybe 20-30 million pounds, but.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go. So it's a very, as you can see there with that back four and the goalkeeper, it's a very, very solid back four you got there. So we'll go to your 2 defensive midfielders. So you want to talk us through who you've got there?
Yeah, well, listen, I think another one, probably one that I could have left out, that I could have easily put in that I've left out is Lee Catmull, and Cats was great. Really, really good player and done fantastic for Sunderland. And it was a tough one to kind of leave him out of this. But the ones that I've gone for, first of all, I've gone for Grant Ledbetter.
Yeah.
And I know Grant from having played against him and before, and then obviously played with him. He was absolutely fantastic. Really, really good footballer. He's had a fantastic career since as well, and Sunderland through and through. So for me, Grant, has to kind of go in there. Another one that that I could have easily put in as well in place of this one, it would have been Dean Whitehead. And Dean was a really, really good leader, fantastic player, and somebody that I got on really well with. So he would have been another one that I could have easily put in there. But next to Grant, I've gone for Lorik Sana. He was fantastic. In his brief spell, he came for a season. and then ended up leaving. But for that season, he was fantastic. He was really, really good. You could see that he was top notch. He was a a really, really elite footballer and played at the top level. Knew what it was all about, and was a fantastic guy as well. Great leader. Ended up being the captain for the season that he was there, and he really was a good leader and a great guy to have around the place, and a fantastic player. And he was a big miss when he left. I think it was Fenerbahce or Galatasaray. I'm not too sure, one of them that he left to go to, and it really was. He was a really big miss.
Yeah, he was, and I think as you mentioned earlier with the Liverpool beach ball game, that's how everyone refers to it now, the beach ball game. I think he was playing centre back for us that day, and I mean he was unreal. I think just nothing went past him.
Yeah, top player.
And also with Ledbetter as well. Does it surprise you that I'm sure it doesn't surprise you that he's actually returned to the club now? I think maybe to finish his career at.
Yeah, and he's still playing well. I've seen a couple of the games this season where he's played, and he's still got it. And he looks after himself. He's a fit boy, and technically he's a good footballer as well. But he's got passion and he's got the drive for the football club. So I think it was a really good thing bringing him back, and I think he's contributed immensely, and he will continue to.
Yeah, absolutely. He scored some great goals as well. I mean, he scored an absolute. I don't know if you've seen it as a thunderbolt against Doncaster. Straight.
Yeah, great goal. Great.
He's still got it. So so those are your two defensive midfielders. We'll go to your attacking three. I mean, you can start off wherever you want with this. Well, we've got one really good player in here and sort of two average ones. So who do you want to start with?
Well, I wasn't sure when you asked me whether I should put myself in or not, and then I thought, well, listen, it's my team, so I'm going to put myself in. So I put myself in kind of the number 10 position. So yeah, it's just less said about that, the better. And then off the right hand side, I could play off the left, I could switch, but Steve Malbank for me has to be in the team. Really, really good player technically, worked hard, very quiet guy, kept himself to himself, very rarely said much, but when he went on the football pitch, he was a really, really good player. Lots of outcomes from him in regards of goals and assists. Really linked the play well, and has to be in the team for me. Really, really top player. On the other side, then playing off the left, although he is a striker, I had to get him into this team. And I've put Danny Welbeck there. Again, short period that he was there, kind of came on loan, but you could see what a top player he was. His finishing was excellent. He worked hard, got hold of the ball, was strong, could get goals. So for me, Danny definitely has to go in there. Moving to kind of the front player, a difficult one, and really, really close. I have to say, between Kenwyne Jones and this player, but I think just purely for the fact that he could pull goals out of nothing. And games could be drifting into a 0-0, and he would come up with a goal and get the winner, or be Darren Bent. I think he'd be the first to admit I wouldn't say he was massively a team player. He just loved scoring goals, but when he needed a goal, Darren Bent could come up with a goal from nothing. So Darren Bent has to go in there up front for me. With a notable mention to Kenwyne Jones, who could quite easily be in this team.
Yeah, absolutely. With your players you listed through there, that is a very, very strong team. I mean, as well, just going back to Steve Malbank. I mean, people have said he used to sort of smoke cigarettes, and he just used to be quite a cool character or whatever. Would you say you have all these?
I've never seen him smoking cigarettes. For me, he was a really professional guy. He went about his job really well, looked after himself really well, kept himself to himself. As I said, he was a really quiet guy, which is absolutely fine. And we had enough characters in there as it was. But for me, it's about what he'd done when he went on the pitch, and when he went on the pitch, he produced more often than not.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also, Darren Bent as well. I mean, for that one season that he had at the club, I think he scored 25 Premier League goals. I think he finished third Premier League top goal scorer up behind Drogba and Rooney. But I mean, I think he missed a fair few penalties as well, which I think would it might have made him the league's top goal scorer. But I mean, you can just see there what a great player he was.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, could get a goal out of nothing, and I played with him at Charlton before that, so I knew what he was all about. I knew that if you put the ball in the right areas and play them through balls from, then he could get goals definitely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's your team going along the bottom. It's an excellent team, but obviously with every team you need a manager. So I think everyone sort of can guess what manager you've gone with. But do you want to tell us who you've got there?
Well, Roy signed me, and Roy was always very good to me. When I played with him, he always seemed to have the time of day for me, which was great. For a young player at the time, when I played with him in Ireland, it was great to kind of get some advice from him. And then when he signed me as well, and you know what, I didn't. I always got on really as well as you can with a manager. He was fine. We had some arguments. Yeah, of course we did, but he played me the majority of the time, left me out sometimes, which is fair enough, which is his prerogative. But I think with the fact that he signed me and showed the faith in me, really kind of really did show the faith in me, kind of bringing me in and kind of pushing me into the team really early on, was really nice. So for me, Roy manages the team.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the Sunderland fans asked me to ask you about Roy Keane. Was he like a big influence on you joining the club? And also, how did you view the period of him leading up to actually leave the football club?
Yeah, well, he was a big influence, and as I said to you, I wasn't desperate to get away from Charlton. So in some ways, I'd built up an affinity with Charlton. I was enjoying playing under Alan Pardew, and we were challenging to kind of get promoted. So I did take a bit of convincing in the respect that I wanted to know what the plans were, and I wanted to know what what the plans for me were, what the plans for the team were. So he was a big influence in that. In me signing, and I think there was loads of factors, probably too much to go into today, building up to when he left. But things like that happen in football, and football moves on really quickly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's been brilliant as well. I mean, 42 minutes has sort of flown by really with listening to you speak about your time at Sunderland, which I'm sure a lot of supporters will enjoy listening. So that's your team there, Andy. How have you found going through your Sunderland 11?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I hadn't really thought about it before, if I'm being totally honest. And I'm kind of going through some of the names and thinking back to who the good players were, and realising that there was some really good players playing with us in and around then. And it brings up some of the memories of some of the good times that you had. Also some of the not so good times, but that's part and parcel of football. It's not always rosy. So no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed kind of thinking back on some of the times and thinking back on some of the players.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Well, it sort of brings us to the end, really. But we've got one last question for you, Andy. That's for the Sunderland supporters watching. Do you have a message?
Well, listen, the only message that I would have is kind of stating the obvious, really, and to just keep getting behind the team, but then that's really obvious because I know that the Sunderland fans will anyway. It's a special club, it's a special area, it's a special place, and the history that goes behind it, and on and off the field, with the politics, with the football, with we spoke about some of the coal mining in the area, the working class people who are really down to earth people who I've got the height of respect for, and kind of love being up and in and around them. Just keep supporting your football club, because You know, it's a fantastic football club. It's a club that I'm privileged to have played for, and it's a club that I'm very, very proud that I did play for, and nobody can ever take that away from me. And you know, I've got Sunderland, one of my Sunderland jerseys framed at home, and every so often I have a little peek up at it, and you know, and it makes me proud that I represented that fantastic football club.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear, Andy. Thanks for your time, and hopefully one day we might see you back in Sunderland in some sort of capacity, which is what I hope a lot of supporters hope. Just but one day. Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. Of course, the series is in association with the Sunderland Food Bank and the Sunderland Fans Museum. So go and check them out. For me and Andy, please everyone stay safe. And yeah, away the lads.